What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with Astrodfs, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over Week 10's Monday Night Showdown between the Bills and Broncos. Buffalo at home on primetime is scary, so see what this one ends up being. I think Buffalo's side looks really good. Denver's side, not so much, but we'll see how it turns out tonight. Primetime is a whole different animal, whole different beast. We see some teams play a lot better than they should on primetime, and we see a lot of teams play worse than they should on primetime. So Josh Allen starting off, most expensive player on both sides, 12.6 on DK, 17.5 on Fanduel. Pretty right pricing for Fanduel. DraftKings, that's one of the higher prices you're going to get for a player. Rightfully so on this slate. Denver giving up a league high 8.1 yards per attempt, lowest pressure rate in the league, third lowest sacks. Denver has gotten 16 passing touchdowns allowed, and that's not to mention the rushing upside that Josh Allen has. If you look at the rushing attempts, guess who's up there? Josh Allen. He's number one on the team in red zone rushing attempts for Buffalo. So a lot to like for Josh Allen in this passing game, which is why his teammate, his number one wide receiver, is another like that I have. At 12,000 on DraftKings, 5,500 on FanDuel. Great matchup for him. 9 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers so far. 29.3% of the red zone targets going to Stephon Diggs. The matchup, Denver's got 2 good corners, right? They got a good safety. But Stephon Diggs sees all sides. He lines up everywhere for Buffalo. They're going to get him the ball. Denver, like I said, allows a lot of yards. So obviously they have good corners. They have a good safety, but as a unit, they're just not clicking. So Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stack, love it for tonight. And then James Cook, and this is why I say pricing matters depending on who you like and who you don't like. So if you're playing DraftKings, James Cook is the third most expensive player. On FanDuel, he's down there, right? On FanDuel, you get Russ is more expensive than him. Gabe Davis is. Javonte is. Cortland Sutton is. There's a lot more so James Cook, if you like James Cook tonight, FanDuel is definitely an option for you. If you're playing DraftKings and you don't like James Cook, perfect, right? But if you like James Cook, FanDuel's probably the site for you tonight. Denver, giving up a league high 5.4 yards per carry, 154 rushing yards per game. My only concern is, especially in the red zone, you see someone like Latavius Murray down here getting some of that work. James Cook obviously being used a whole lot more. But like I said, on DraftKings, it's really hard to get to him at his price point. But FanDuel, I think FanDuel's a great play for James Cook tonight. Russ, 9,400 on DraftKings, fourth most expensive. On FanDuel, third. So, a big difference there. Third best PFF pass block advantage for him. Buffalo's defense, a team that gets a lot of sacks, a lot of pressures. Russ actually plays pretty good under pressure if you go look at his numbers. And one of I wanted to say Saints safeties, but Bills safeties. Micah Hyde is out tonight. That's a huge blow to that defense that is already missing a couple pieces. So one more piece sucks to be missing. Russ finds a way to get his fantasy points, though. That's one thing about him. Like, you can look at the overall stats, but then you see Russ's fantasy points, and he's somehow gotten 15 fantasy points. That's another option today that happens, right? And the other thing to go over that I was thinking about while doing this is he might not even need to get yards per se. He gets 2 or 3 touchdowns, which if you consider how many interceptions Josh Allen has thrown this year, there's a good shot he throws a pick and Denver's in the red zone already. Denver does not run the ball in the red zone. Tell you that right now. They do not run the ball in the red zone. They pass. So Russell Wilson, for his price points, I like both, right? If I had a preference, his DraftKings price is a lot more manageable than FanDuel. FanDuel, you get a lot more money, though. So, going on, though, Dalton Kincaid, 8,400 on DraftKings, fifth most expensive. FanDuel, you get value on Kincaid, right? Cheaper than Cook, cheaper than Davis, Williams, Cortland Sutton, and then just above Jerry Jeudy. So Kincaid's got a lot of value on FanDuel. So if you're liking Kincaid, and if you like Buffalo tonight, you go on FanDuel, right? I'm not encouraging anyone to play. This is why I do these sheets, to give you guys examples and go over players I like and stuff like that. So yeah, if you like Buffalo tonight, which a lot of people do, FanDuel is got a lot more reasonable pricing. Fourth best tight end PFF advantage for Kincaid. Denver giving up 16 DraftKings fantasy points a game to tight ends. The last 3 games without Dawson Knox, and granted one of these is Knox still in, and that's the game he got hurt. 15.5, 17.5, and 17.1. So those numbers add up perfectly, right? Not to mention, he's pretty much the only tight end that gets receiving work for that team. A lot of people thought that, with Dawson Knox in there, Kincaid would be used as a wide receiver. They did, but that's also allowed values in other places that we'll get to shortly. Gabe Davis below him, I have as a fade on both sites. Right, pricing, he's up there in pricing. He's more expensive than James Cook, Javonte, just below Courtland Sutton. DraftKings, I think the price is a little more reasonable, right? The matchup's okay, right? Like, I honestly prefer Diggs. I think everyone prefers Diggs over Gabe Davis, but that's why there's a price differential to try to encourage that. But with how shaky the matchup is for Davis, I don't think it's worth it. I'd rather play Kincaid on DraftKings, paying $1,000 more, or paying down to Kincaid on FanDuel. It just doesn't make sense. Second on the team in red zone attempts, so like he has that touchdown upside, which is, you get a touchdown, that's a receiving touchdown, 7 points. No matter what, it's 7 points. 7.1 at minimum, 7.1 points you get. So that's an option for him. But I don't know, the game script could go Gabe Davis over Diggs, right? And Gabe Davis has one of his Gabe Davis games where he shines. I'm just not willing to take that risk. Granted, stop everything I'm going off of really quick. If you're playing max lines, you're playing 150 lines, you're gonna have Gabe Davis. I'm gonna have Gabe Davis. I'm not saying I'm not gonna have Gabe Davis, but I'm gonna be lower on Gabe Davis than most people. That is what I'm saying when I say fade. If you're only playing 5 to 10 lines, then yeah, there's a good shot I don't have Gabe Davis in a line. I might have him in one, but I'm not going to have him in a lot. So, Javonte Williams, right below him on both sides, DraftKings and FanDuel. I love his pricing. I love his pricing tonight, Javonte Williams. 34% of the red zone carries going to Javonte, and you have to consider he missed a couple games so far, so play that into a factor. Buffalo allowing 23.9 DraftKings fantasy points per game against in Denver is really good running the ball with all 3 running backs, involving all 3 running backs, but Javonte getting the majority of the rushing attempts. Buffalo's 6th most missed tackles. So that's a huge play for someone like Javonte Williams, who forces a lot of broken tackles, missed tackles. So, and then Buffalo giving up 4.9 yards per carry. Granted, their defense is 5.4, so we're seeing on paper 2 defenses that give up a lot of yards per carry, just if they're going to have to carry, right? So a lot of factors play into that number. Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, similar pricing at DraftKings. I don't love him tonight, but if you want to play one or the other, it's $200 difference, right? That's an Adam Troutman difference. I'm okay if you want to play either player. I'm not really considering a double stack of Sutton and Jeudy to go with Russ in a line. But if you look at the FanDuel pricing, Courtland Sutton's $3,000 more than Jerry Jeudy. I would just play Jerry Jeudy. I don't care if Courtland Sutton outscores him by 10 points. The price difference that you get from Courtland Sutton to Jerry Jeudy, the value is just there for Jeudy. Courtland Sutton getting 28% of the red zone targets leads the team. Jerry Jeudy not getting as much, but getting some of the more receiving work down the field. So Jerry Jeudy, I would prefer Jerry Jeudy easily on FanDuel. DraftKings, go flip a coin. Tyler Bass, a like for me tonight. Kickers are always a like, right? Because, and the reason they're a like on showdowns is very simple, right? If you have seen the history of how these primetime games have been, kickers are involved one way or another, right? They're either getting the extra points or the field goals. If you played kickers last night, you had a great line. Now, I don't like or love Tyler Bass tonight as far as getting those points, just because both defenses allow a lot of yards per drive, allow a lot of points per drive too in that matter. But Buffalo's offense is really good, especially in the red zone. They're one of the best red zone offenses in the league. So that worries me about Tyler Bass getting some of those field goal points rather than just the PAT points. So I would prefer Will Lutz tonight over Tyler Bass. I'm going to be playing Will Lutz more. You've just kind of seen Buffalo's defense be a little better in the red zone and Denver's offense be a little worse in the red zone. So Will Lutz, I prefer tonight. Going to the Bills defense, kind of expensive on both sides, to be honest. 0 interceptions since week 4. 1 fumble in the last 4 games, and only 5 sacks in the last 3. There's not a lot to like right now on paper for the Bills defense. Granted, this could be a game where they become the Bills defense they once were. But until they do it, I'm going to bet against them, right? So Bills defense I have as a fade. I don't want to pass Khalil Shakir. Not passing him, right? I like on FanDuel or DraftKings, a value on FanDuel. I like because I pretty much value on DraftKings 3,000 and below is a value. Sometimes you have some teams to where the values aren't really values, like they're value just because of pricing, but not have any fantasy point relevance. So for the most part, 3K and below. On FanDuel, I'd say anything below 7,500 pretty much is a value. But just looking at some of the values for tonight, Shakir makes sense. 14 targets in the last 3 games, getting some fantasy points, and that's because Dalton Kincaid is playing tight end rather than wide receiver. So Shakir's been able to see the field more. He's gained some trust out of Josh Allen, and is a like for me. Like, I like him at his price point. We'll definitely get exposure. Marvin Mims Jr. I have as a fade. 3 targets. 3. Not per game. 3 targets fully in the last 4 games. He needs to see the field. He's way too good. They get Lil Jordan Humphrey, Brandon Johnson, I think. Those guys involved. They don't get Marvin Mims involved. Broncos defense, 6 interceptions. In the last 5 games, 9 sacks in the last 4. But the amount of yards and points facing a top 5 offense tonight isn't going to cut it. Obviously, I think there's that upside for them getting 1 to 2 picks, maybe even 3 against Josh Allen, depending. And that gets you your points. At the price for DraftKings, I don't mind it. The price for FanDuel, I still don't mind it. It's just going against the top 5 offense is not something to really bet on. Granted, if you have more exposure than the field on Denver's defense today, and let's say they outperform a lot of these guys in this price range, because of the lower ownership, they might have quite a bit of value to your line. So that's something to consider as well. McLaughlin, value for me, 26 on DraftKings, 8 on FanDuel. 5.6 has been the floor in the last 3. Now, that's not great. That's not crazy. But we've seen him 2 games over 15 points, and that's him getting touchdowns. Splitsy running back work as far as the receiving game. P. Ryan's been getting a lot of the targets and third down work from here to there. But McLaughlin, kind of the middle, right? Javonte gets the majority of the rushes. P. Ryan, it seems, gets most of the targets. McLaughlin, both. Like, he gets his rushes, he gets targets. 21% of the red zone carry. So if it's not Javonte, it's McLaughlin. So I have him as a value. Latavius Murray, another value, 1,800 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. Gets a lot, especially the goal line work, the rushes inside the 5. It's either Josh Allen or pretty much Latavius Murray. James Cook gets minimal, and I do mean minimal work, but for the most part, only getting 4.5 opportunities a game. That's carries and targets. So not a lot of volume, but touchdown upside tonight. And then last but not least, Adam Troutman, 200 on DraftKings, 6,500 on FanDuel. If you look at anyone not named Greg Dulcich, pretty much they don't use their tight ends. But at 200 on DraftKings, 6 points is probably the projection tonight, somewhere around 5 to 6, just because of what Buffalo's kind of allowed to tight ends. that's huge value on DraftKings. So that is it for tonight. If you guys want this spreadsheet, it's available to subscribers at any time. Granted, you can go and look at this video. That's fine. But if you want to go look at the sheet, ask any questions and stuff like that, get player bets or player props, bets for games, click the link for our Discord. A very cheap subscription package for what we offer. Been having a lot of really good weeks in main slate, so if you guys are interested in that, like I said, click the link. If you did enjoy the video, click the like and subscribe. That means a lot to me personally, and I will see you guys in the next one.